You're watching France 24. It's time now, of course, for our daily look at the international press. Joining me in the studio is Chris Moore. Good morning, Chris. Let's start in France and a political storm in a teacup.
A storm in a teacup, yes. Of course, local elections coming up here in France, and the controversy centres on the Paris suburb of Neuilly-sur-Seine. This is a Sarkozy stronghold. Nicolas Sarkozy, the French president, wants mayor there, and it'd be very embarrassing for him if his UMP party did badly in these forthcoming local elections. Now, the man who was supposed to be standing was a spokesperson for the presidential palace, David Martignon. This until Le Figaro newspaper published news of a survey a few days ago saying that Martignon stood no chance of winning. Martignon miraculously no longer a candidate. One man who is a candidate is Jean Sarkozy, the 21-year-old son of the French president. And he's third on the list, and he's been doing the rounds of the French media in recent days, trying to justify exactly what's going on. And the French press asking this morning who's calling the shots in Neuilly. La Croix, the Catholic daily, says Martignon cast aside by Jean Sarkozy and Neuilly's UMP leaders. They say the whole affair is really a bit sleazy and is very bad publicity for the UMP. Libération, the left-wing daily, has some comments from former presidential candidate François Bayrou, who accuses Sarkozy of behaving like a hereditary monarch and says that the whole thing is pitiful for France and it makes him want to cry.
Goodness me. Well, this is, of course, the same Jean Sarkozy who was saying he'd be keeping a very low profile following the election of his father.
He is only third on the list.
He is only third on the list. All right, then. Well, that's OK. Scoop time now, Chris. Britain's Independent has one this morning on its front page. They've tracked down the last surviving member of the Khmer Rouge regime in Cambodia for an interview. That's
right, yeah. A man by the name of Duc, who's supposedly standing trial sometime later this year for the crimes he committed as the commandant of an interrogation centre in Phnom Penh, the capital, through which some 17,000 people passed, only 6 of whom came out alive. And this is really quite a moving interview with the man himself. Duc, looking back on his time and trying to justify himself of the centre. He says anyone who entered had to be psychologically demolished. Nobody who came to us has any chance of saving himself. Really a testimony there of the complete paranoia and obsessiveness of this regime.
Well, not so much paranoia, but certainly obsessiveness among football fans, especially looking at the Africa Cup of Nations final, Chris. That went all the Pharaoh's way.
Yeah, not the Faroe Islands, the Pharaohs of Egypt. And El Haram, the Egyptian paper, is, as you'd expect, in jubilant and patriotic mood. They give blanket coverage to this, Egypt's second successive victory in the tournament. And they hail Zidane. Not Zinedine Zidane, the French legend, but Mohamed Zidane, the man who provided the pass that set up the winning goal in that game. L'Equipe, the French sports daily, is very pleased with itself for predicting an Egyptian win, saying they thoroughly deserved it and declaring them kings of Africa, saying it would have been worse for Cameroon were it not for the heroics of their goalie, Carlos Kameni. Finally, Catherine, I've got a story from Japan for you. It's actually a rather blood-curdling story, but the headline in the Mainichi Daily News is unusual to say the least. Verdict imminent in boy's chopstick death lawsuit. Now, this is about a 4-year-old boy who went into a Japanese hospital in 1999 with 7.6 centimetres of chopstick lodged in his head. The doctor's solution to this was to give him some ointment and tell him to go home. He died the day after, and not surprisingly, his parents are suing the hospital. A verdict due tomorrow in Tokyo, but the hospital denying any claims of negligence.
Thank you very much indeed, Chris Moore, for that race through the international press. We'll be back same time tomorrow with another press review here on France 24.